It is the last day to get your votes in. NBA All-Star Ballot 2025. And I realized I haven't put mine in yet. We have a special guest on the show today, and we're going to do just that. Let's get into it. Let's kick it off here in the Eastern Conference. And now these are positionless ballots. And I do want to say, keep that in mind when we go to the Western Conference. But starting here in the East, we are Cavalier fans. And I promise our bias is going to try not to get into the way too much. But the captain is Giannis Antetokounmpo, a guy that's averaging 32, 12, and 6, doing all he can to keep that team as a top four seed in the Eastern Conference. They started off the year terrible, Bakari, but they turned
Yeah,
that corner. And now they look like an okay team there in the Eastern Conference. We talk about it all the time. As Cavs fans, we do not want to see that team in the first round.
not at
So
all.
he's going to get the starting nod, I think, for obvious reasons. Now, Trae Young and Donovan Mitchell will be my backcourt nominees. Now, for Trae Young, 23 and 12, the NBA assist leader. Again, a team that has the defense, but offensively, Bakari, it's not always there around him. So Trae Young gets my
Yeah,
nod. I think he's had an incredible start to the season. And then Donovan Mitchell. I mean, Bakari, as of right now, 35 and 6, the best record in the NBA, and he's the leader of it. So that's my backcourt and my captain. Your thoughts so far?
yeah, no, I agree with everything. Like you said, like everybody from Giannis to D Mitch. We've talked about it off camera when it comes to Giannis because I haven't been on here in a while. But
Yes.
there was a stretch, especially around the midseason tournament or the end season tournament. I'm sorry, where Giannis, to me, if he would have kept playing at the pace he was playing at, and the team would have kept going the way they were going, Giannis could have played himself into another MVP. To me, because they had
Yeah.
started off so bad and they had built up to where they were. Obviously, just on par with like a couple of other teams in Eastern Conference, the Bucks, the Sixers, some of those other teams. It's just up and down. It's a roller coaster, but it's not due to Giannis's play. Uh, like you said with Trey, who was the other? I think the other Lamelo was the vote getter, leading vote getter right now.
I mean, I would assume so. I know he has the younger audience behind him.
Yeah. Did you? I saw something the other day. Did you know the last person to average 12 assists like for a season was like John Stockton?
You serious? Like
Yeah,
nobody, like not even. Oh wow,
not even
that's
Chris
shocking that
Paul,
Chris Paul maybe
Steve
never had
Nash.
like a 12 assist season with Lob City Clippers.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, that's insane.
Trey is the first person since John Stockton to average 12. So, we I was a Trey hater for a while. And I feel like some guys just kind of started going under the radar. Like Trey was one of
Yeah.
those guys. Like the last couple of seasons, I'm like, I was a Trey hater for him kicking us out to play-in a couple of years ago. So I know firsthand how dangerous he can be. And to see him go under the radar to the point where he's averaging 23 and 12 on a Hawks team that should be furthest from contention, it's amazing. And D Mitch, he's having a down year in my opinion, and he's
Yeah.
still, we're still have the best record in the league. But that just goes to show you his evolution as a player. He's not trying to force it every night, and even on his off nights, he always bounces back. So, yeah.
Yeah, you touched on it perfectly there. Again, we talk about it all the time. He's not as aggressive offensively as he has been in years past, but he's
Mm,
there when we need him to be there most of the time. Let's just say that, right? Unless he's facing Lou Dort.
yeah.
Now, Jason Tatum, there for the Boston Celtics, the number two seed, still a 30-win team at this point in the season, and he's the leader of it. I understand there's arguments here and there, but I think he is the best player on that team, and with his numbers, again, everything just goes into him getting this spot yet again. He's probably going to have this spot for the next 5 years at least. And then Carl Anthony Towns, man, I didn't think that this was going to be such a seamless fit. On paper, it made a lot of sense, right? But we worried about how the defense would work here in New York with getting rid of, Isaiah Hartenstein, who's a little bit better defensively. I guess maybe you can argue. Regardless, we worried about the chemistry that Carl Anthony Towns would have in this New York offense and just team in general. But he's been a seamless fit, and I think he's been better than anyone could have imagined. I mean, a guy that's averaging 25, and get this, Bakari, 14 rebounds a game. That is up there with Domantas Sabonis, which he usually blows everybody out of the water. He's going to get my other starting spot. Any additional thoughts on Towns? Because we know why Tatum is there.
Yeah, Cat. Once again, we talked about it off camera after the Timberwolves lost in the conference finals last season, and it seemed like almost immediately after that loss, they were talking about and there were reports coming out how like Cat could be on the move and all of this, and I told you I was like I don't know why you would scapegoat Cat.
Right.
He's just as much of a reason that you guys got there as Anthony Edwards was last year, and guess what? Both of the guys didn't have the best of series. I would have ran it back, especially saw how far that group could
Yeah.
get. And now you see where the Timberwolves are kind of struggling, and they chose to keep guys like Nas Reed and Jaden McDaniels, and you go and you trade for Dante DiVincenzo, and you know Mike Conley's only getting older, and you can see how that's paying off for him, especially because they have Julius Randle now, who's just not a good fit for Ant. But yeah, like you mentioned, this cat fit on the Knicks. Me and Amir were talking about it maybe about a month ago or so. If you take Joel Embiid out of the equation due to injuries, Cat is the second best big in the league right
Yeah.
now. It's Jokic and then Cat, and then I don't really know who would be a anybody on their tier. Maybe Sabonis or
Right.
Sengun's been having a good year, but on the tier of Cat and Jokic, who are absolutely game changers. Like I said, you take Joel Embiid out the equation, it's pretty far reach from 2 to 3 in my opinion. But yeah.
When we get into this bench unit, I want to throw some stats out there, and for Bakari, I think this would be good for you as well, just to know. Again, these are my predictions, right? Or this is my ballot, not my predictions for what's going to happen. Now, for these things, again, it's positionless basketball, so keep that in mind. On this entire Eastern Conference ballot, I had 8 guards slash forwards and 4 big men, so 4 true centers. And I had 3 first-time All-Stars, and one of them, which we'll get to in a second, they were a first-time All-Star because of an injury replacement. I think Franz Wagner would definitely be on my ballot, but I don't think he's going to be healthy for this game here in just a couple weeks. So if Franz Wagner, of course, which he's supposed to be, he's going to be out. He's not going to get a spot on this year's ballot from me. Now, guys that I maybe left off the list that have an argument, guys like Darius Garland, guys like Damian Lillard, where their numbers are there. Garland, his impact, I think, is higher than it's ever been for the Cavaliers team. Again, we are not by far and away, but we are definitely the best record in the NBA. I just didn't want to give the Cavs 4 All-Stars, right? But here for the guards on this Eastern Conference bench, Jalen Brunson. Of course, it's going to be his second time or third time. I can't remember being an All-Star, but regardless, 26-8, great season from him. LaMelo Ball is averaging 30 and 7.5. He is on a 8-win ball club at this point, so he's
Yeah,
doing
something
everything.
like
He's a
that.
one-man army out there on most nights, but his numbers alone, I think, warrants. Sometimes he's playing at an MVP level, and just imagine if he was hurt or if this team didn't have Lamelo Ball, this might be a 3-4 win team with how they've looked this season. Cade Cunningham is another first-time All-Star, 24-7-9 on the season. He's finally getting his credit, I believe, from the national media, but he's
Yeah.
been really good for this Pistons team this year. And that injury replacement is Tyler Hero, a guy that I wanted to get on this list. Not that I'm a big fan of his game, but he's had an incredible season. 24.6 rebounds, 5 assists on this Heat team that has had to juggle so many different obstacles with Jimmy Butler all year long. And then you add on to the fact that outside of Tyler Hero, who's the go-to guy in this offense? Bam Adebayo, one night he'll give you 2, next night he'll give you 20. You don't know what you're getting from Bam Adebayo on most nights. So Tyler Hero, I think, has had an incredible start to the year, and I'm going to give him his credit because there's an opportunity to give it to him with Franz Wagner out here. Bakari, your thoughts on the guards here on my Eastern bench?
Yeah, the guards were always going to be debatable this year, especially with how many of them are playing so well. Like you mentioned, Darius Garland isn't even on this list, and to me, he's having the best year of his career,
Yes,
even
I mean yeah.
uh, even that 2021 All-Star appearance. And I know why you have, Tyler Hero has been the Heat's best player. Jimmy has, he before he asked for the trade, he was not playing up to Jimmy level. He never really plays in the regular season
Right.
hard, I guess you should say. But it's been really bad since he's made it known he wants to be out. I mean, he's going out there and giving you 8 points in like 35 minutes.
Yeah.
Cade. I wouldn't even say that like JB unlocked him or anything. Cade's always been this good. My question with Cade the past few years has always been his kind of like his durability.
Yes.
He was out a lot of times with injuries over his first this is his fourth year. Yeah, this is his fourth year.
Yeah. Yeah. Fourth
So
year.
over the other 3 years, he'd always get hurt, even though he would be playing crazy, and a lot of his stats just never translated. But now it's good to see him playing on a winning basketball team. Lamelo. He's going to shoot the ball 30 times to get those 30. Sometimes he's
And
going to
half
shoot
of those are going to be on
35.
one leg. He loves
Yeah,
those one-legged
exactly.
jumpers.
Yeah, but his impact can't be like it feels like LaMelo shoots those shots or starts to get going, and it gets his teammates kind of energized to see that. Like, Brandon Miller will come down and just start shooting crazy shots. Miles Bridges will try and post up somebody. So it gets the team galvanized, and Mark Williams and Nick Richards have really been killing it for the Hornets. Or Nick Richards was
Right.
before
We're
he got
right. Where he
traded.
was
But
killing it.
yeah, Mark Williams has been. Yeah, we watched the game as the Cavs fans a couple of weeks ago. Mark Williams was dominating Jared Allen, and it was like his first game back from injury. So that was the craziest thing ever. And Jalen Brunson ordinarily would have a LaMelo and Jalen Brunson would have ordinarily have leading vote getter or starting options, but here we are, and 26-8 is a bench player in the
Yeah.
East, so that's crazy.
Yeah, and now I do want to throw it out there. I think Darius Garland, you can argue, has had a better season than, let's say, Tyler Hero. But again, it came down to, do I really want to give the Cavaliers four All-Stars? It just was a little bit over the top for me, even though I am a Cavaliers fan. Now, in the front court, Jaylen Brown, of course, goes underrated every single season, even after winning the Eastern Conference and Finals MVP. I feel like we talked about him for 2 weeks, and then we're back to talking about Tatum and the rest of this Celtics team. Continues to fly under the radar. I think this year he's been a little bit more inconsistent on some nights than you want to see out of him, but still 23, 6 and 6 defense, all defensive level play. You know
Yeah.
what you're getting out of Jaylen Brown. He's going to turn it on to come playoff time. At least that's what it looks like this season. And then for the Cavaliers, I gave them three All-Stars, and that is with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen to round out my bench unit here in the Eastern Conference. Because if you watch this Cavaliers team play, it's not just running up and down and we're shooting tons of threes, which we are, to granted, right? But on the defensive end, we are funneling everything to the bigs. So Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell have looked a lot better defensively this year because we're just funneling everything to these two behemoths in the middle of the court. And again, both of them are averaging like almost a double-double a night. I think we have a combined 4 blocks between these two on a
Yes.
nightly basis. They're doing everything. I think these are the unsung heroes of our team this year. Bakari, your thoughts about our Cavalier big men?
Yeah, one of the underrated aspects of their game is their passing ability too.
Yes.
DG and Donovan Mitchell don't average a ton of assists, and it's not because they don't share the ball. You could look at the stats and be like, Donovan Mitchell doesn't pass the ball. Darius Garland should average more than 6.5 assists. Evan Mobley and Jared Allen are great passers of the basketball, but that is kind of on par for everybody on the Cavs. But it really helps when you have your two front court or your two front court players able to kind of throw lobs to each other or hit Max Strus on a back cut or whatever it is. These bigs, they're better than advertised, if you ask me. And everything with Evan Mobley, him being more aggressive, his stats might look, kind of similar to last year, but his efficiency is way up, or his usage is way up. And I don't know about you, but it's the best feeling ever seeing Evan go one on one with like a big who's stronger than him, or
Yeah.
somebody who's
Put a shoulder to
might
his
not
chest
be
and
as
just be aggressive.
yeah, and that's the best thing ever. That's all we asked for him for the last 3 years. So it's good that it's finally paying off. Kenny Atkinson obviously believes in him. Jared Allen, he doesn't have as many soft nights. He would have those nights every now and then where he'd be like, "Man, where's Jared Allen at? Did he show up?" But he's really been better than advertised too. Stats won't really show the whole game for him because he's such a team player to a fault. But yeah, with these Cavs big men, they're better than advertised.
Yeah, I mean, Jared Allen, I think it helps that Embiid's been hurt for a lot of this season because if he runs into
Yeah,
him one time, we got to forget about his play for the next month.
yeah,
But the last thing I'll throw out there is Paolo Banchero would have been a starter on this team if he
yeah.
played at the level that he had to start the year and even lately when he came back from injury. I just try to look at it and say, okay, every team's played about 40 games. I want you to at least play half of those games. That's kind of one of the things I also threw in there.
Oh,
Now,
I
that
got
will
a
play a part here
question for you.
for my Western Conference ballot. Now, on the Eastern Conference, Bakari, I had 8 different guards and 4 big men. I have that flipped here in the Western Conference, so balance as all things should be. Now, in the starting lineup, I will say Luka Doncic definitely would probably be here, but he's probably not going to be healthy. Now, there is a report that says he might be back early February, which would be again a good and a bad thing because the Mavericks play the Cavs here early February. But Luka would be on the starting ballot, right, or even on the bench, but he might not even be back for this game. So just keep that in mind. There's 2 first-time All-Stars on this list, Bakari, and both of them are starters. Is that controversial? No doubt about it, but I think these two guys have been that damn good this season. And those are Alperen Sengun, of course, big man for the Rockets, number 2 seed. They've shocked the world with this regular season success. And Victor Wembanyama, a guy that's going to be the deep boy. I think you can give him the award already. He's continued to expand his game. I mean, he's averaging 25 and 11, and I think, honestly, he has more potential than that. And that's not even including his defensive numbers and impact. Victor Wembanyama and Sengun, I think, deserve not only first-time All-Star, I guess nods, but first-time All-Star starter nods. And again, that might be a hot take. Now, LeBron, of course, he's 40, averaging 24, 8, and 9. The guy just continues to amaze us. And Jokic for, again, 31 and 13 and 10 assists. He's the most valuable player in the league, whether if he wins that award or not. Now, I do have the starter not being Jokic, despite those incredible numbers. I'm going to give it to Shea for the simple fact that he is the MVP frontrunner right now. He's averaging 31, 5, and 6, and they're 35 and 7 as a team. Bakari, your thoughts on the starting group here in my Western Conference?
Like you said, I agree that Sengun should be an all-star. I personally wouldn't give him the starting spot. I know he'll probably make
I
it
get
off the
it.
bench just for record wise. I'd probably replace him, even though this person has a worse record or they're on a worse team. I'd probably give it to Anthony Edwards. Just if I was counting in fan vote or kind of obstacles he's had to deal with his team, just not being as good as advertised.
Yes.
I'd probably give it to Anthony Edwards. Everybody else, when you think about it in the West, though, like Ja's been hurt. Steph's been, Steph's had a down year.
Oh, we'll get into Steph
The
and Ja. We'll
Warriors,
talk about them in a moment.
yeah, the Warriors have had a down year in general. So there's really nobody else more deserving, I guess, if you really look at it, than these five right here for an all-star starter. Like I said, I'd probably give it to Ant over Sengun, but that's just because his play has been better than what their T Wolves record is, and he can only do so much on a team. Like if you even Anthony Edwards, he's shooting the three a lot better. He
Yes.
he he literally did what everybody said he needed to do, and that was to get a reliable jumper, and he has that now, and you know,
I
they
I
they don't
can
have it.
agree with you 100% on the Anthony Edwards take. The only reason I leaned towards Houston, the Houston Star, is because, well, again, they shocked the world, their top three seed, and
Mhm.
I think the NBA is going to want to give them some, a player, right, a spot
Yeah,
here on
right.
the All Star starters, just because, again, of this early season success. But there's no argument with me because Anthony Edwards was my number one player on the bench, averaging 25, 6, and 6. He is truly a one-man army. I don't even know how he's got them to be the 8th seed with all the inconsistencies around himself. I mean, on some nights, Mike Conley is their second guy to go to offensively. He should be the 5th guy on a good team, like he was last season. Regardless, this is a guy that, again, he continues to shock the world. Had a crazy highlight dunk about a week ago at this point. Who was that over? I can't remember. Regardless, Anthony Black. That's who it was over. So that'll be
Oh
a good
yeah, it
poster
was. Yeah.
down the line. But now let's get to the other guards. I do want to throw this out there. There's a big debate here. We'll get into in a second. But again, like I mentioned, Luka injury will not be on this ballot, but he should be if he is healthy and ready to go. He's that dang good. I mean, he's having a down season and almost averaging a 30-point triple double. James Harden. I've said this all season, and I'll continue to say it. To have this team as a top 4 seed in the Western Conference, with Kawhi Leonard missing what 30 of the 40 games this season, maybe even more than that, and to have again this team be a contender in the Western Conference so far this year is amazing. I mean, he's single-handedly made Norman Powell look like an all-star.
Yeah.
Zubac, same thing. He just continues to elevate everybody around him and to keep this team afloat while Kawhi Leonard was getting healthy. I just think that his impact, even though his numbers aren't the same, I think his impact is on the same level as those MVP years in Houston because of what he's doing with the players around him. It might be a hot take, but that's why I have James Harden getting my nod here to start this season. And Steph Curry, it's either Steph Curry or Ja Morant, right? Wherever you want to go. Steph Curry's played 10 more games. Statistically, he's having a better start to the season, and he is a one-man army there in Golden State. So that's why maybe part of nostalgia also, right? I gave him maybe the nod over Ja Morant, but you guys know how much I love Ja Morant with how much I talked about him in the offseason. In the front court, we'll get to in a second. Bakari, your thoughts on the Western guards? Again, only 3 of them with Luka, but your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. I remember we were talking about this maybe a couple weeks ago, and you asked me about James Harden because you said you had him as an all-star back then, and I
Yes.
said to me, James Harden was probably only interchangeable with Ja, and then Ja got hurt. So I think it's really James Harden because Ja just has missed too many games for me to kind of give him that award over some of these people. Like James Harden, like you mentioned, has the Clippers a top four. So I didn't even know it was top four. I knew it was
They
top
jumped to
six.
4 last night.
Yeah, I was about to say I knew it was top six, but top four is crazy. I guess the only player that just comes to mind potentially being left off is Devin Booker.
I was going to get to him. Go
It
ahead.
maybe as a replacement for Luca, or I guess interchangeable, like you said, with Steph or Ja. I guess if that's a three-player interchangeable kind of scenario, but that yeah, the West guards, I feel like those are pretty kind of set in stone. Like you kind of know who those guards are going to be, except now you have James Harden and Steph who are a little bit older. But in the future, it always be Ant, Ja, and Devin Booker. It feels like.
I think my predictions for what the NBA is going to do, I think James Harden's going to be left off the list, as crazy as that might sound. I think it's going to be probably Ja. And I think Devin Booker's probably going to get over. I think Devin Booker has a better argument than Steph Curry probably to start the year. I mean, Devin Booker's had 30 plus points in 6 of the last 7 games since he came back from injury. Again, I just think nostalgia reasons. I'm going with Steph Curry, and I think again I explained why James Harden is there. But Devin Booker and John Moran are my two biggest honorable mentions, with Luka, of course, with the injury we talked about it here in the Western Conference. Now let's get into the front court. We have the Slim Reaper, Kevin Durant, 27.6 rebounds, 4 assists a game. I mean, it's Kevin Durant. It's crazy to say that after coming off of that Achilles injury, where most players in NBA history just kind of faded off into their retirement. Kevin Durant is as crazy as it sounds. Some nights he looks better than what he did. Let's say in those
Yeah.
Warriors years, he just everything looks so effortless now, and it's like he's barely even trying. Then you look up at the scoreboard, he's got 22 points in the first half, or he's got 20 points out of nowhere after starting off slow. The game just looks easy for Kevin Durant. Again, arguably the greatest one-on-one scorer of all time. Jaren Jackson Jr., I had to get an all-star for the top 3 seed in the Memphis Grizzlies with Jaren Jackson Jr. Again, he's a 2 seed, is the Defensive Player of the Year candidate. And with John Moran missing about half the games this year, for them to still be a top 3 seed, I think a lot of that credit goes to JJJ. And again, averaged 23 and 6, about 2 blocks a game. I wanted to give him his credit. Anthony Davis, do the Lakers deserve 2 All-Stars? No. Last year they didn't. But hey, they got 2 All-Stars. He averaged 26 and 12, started the year tremendously before he had a little bit of a banged up injury. But he's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate as well. At the bare minimum, he's going to be first team all defensive NBA or all first team defense. That
Mhm.
sounds better. Regardless. And then to close off the list, is this bias? Maybe. Does Devin Booker, Ja have a better argument? Sure, because of where the Kings stand in the conference. But the Kings have been hot, right? Recently, they've been one of the hottest teams in the league, and Sabonis is averaging 21 and 14. Again, he's what, the rebound leader, of course, like he always
Yeah.
is. Bakar, your thoughts on the front court here? It was a bit sloppy on my part, but I'll give it to you here.
No, I think Anthony Davis he started the year as an MVP candidate.
Yeah.
So like you said, the Lakers record wise probably don't deserve
I
two
mean,
All
they're
Stars.
like the 5th seed or the 6th seed right now.
So yeah, I think they were, yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think they won 21, 22 games so far to this point. And I'd argue Anthony Davis has actually probably been a little bit better than LeBron.
Yes.
LeBron's always going to be he's going to be a starter however long he's in the league,
I
so you
think
can't
that's
take
also
that
played a
away
part
from him.
into it. Kind of like the Steph Curry vote for me.
Right, exactly. And same thing with like Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant might not always be a starter. He'll always be on the All-Star team. Jaren Jackson Jr., like you said, the things that Grizzlies team is doing, even though Ja's been in and out of the lineup, have been it's what we expected from Memphis coming into the year with Ja playing. So the fact that they're able to keep that pace without him is crazy too. I guess my only argument for Sabonis would be, who do you think is more deserving, Sabonis or De'Aaron Fox?
I would say Sabonis. I You see, that's tough because again, it's what do you value more in this team? I guess I think
Yeah.
that you could take off De'Aaron Fox and you could still get, or I'll say this, you can have off nights from De'Aaron Fox and still make up the offense elsewhere, which is what De'Aaron Fox brings. Now, not to his level, credit, right? But I think DeMar DeRozan could drop 30 and this team can win a game. I don't think that Domantas Sabonis can go out there and have 8 points and 8 rebounds and they win a game. I just think that he's solely their only guy in the middle, and I think he again the offense runs through him, whether if he's the
Yeah.
one scoring the most points or not. That would be my argument. But what say you about De'Aaron Fox? Why would you give him the edge if that's the case?
I don't know if I give him the edge either. I think De'Aaron Fox, he's always going to his stats are always going to pop off the page. I remember even what was it, last year or 2 years ago, he was averaging almost like 30 points.
Yeah.
And I don't even think he was an all-star. I think he made it. He made it last year, didn't he? Or
I
one
think
of
I
the two
think he made
years.
it 2 years ago because that was the year that they made it to the playoffs.
Okay, well then maybe it was last year
Yeah, I
that
think last
he
year he missed it.
started.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year I think he started really crazy, and he didn't even end up making it. I think, like you said, to me, I'd lean towards Sabonis as well. We saw what he did to the Celtics a week or two ago, where he was
Yes.
just dominating the ball. He was the reason they won.
20
I mean,
rebounds in the first half.
yeah, Chris Stapps didn't know what hit him, And that, I mean, another argument. The Celtics look like they kind of have a chink in armor. It could just be repeat
Like,
hangover or whatever. But yeah,
yeah, I have a theory about the Celtics, and this has nothing to do with today's video, but you brought it up, so let's talk about it. Again, at home, here is my official Western Conference ballot. We'll get back to it in a moment, but for the Celtics, I think that they're kind of like the Chiefs. I think they're just like bored, right? I think
yeah,
they know at any point in time they can turn it on and they can beat anybody that they want to on a nightly basis. I think they might just be bored, right? They might be overconfident, is probably another word that I can throw out there. But your thoughts? Why do you think the Celtics maybe just aren't 33-6 like the Thunder and the Cavs are this far into the year?
I think last year you got insane production from Derek White and Drew Holiday. I think you can't always expect those players to have those type of seasons every year. I think they'll step up when it matters, but you've seen a little bit this year. Derek White maybe hasn't
Yes.
shot as well consistently as he did last year. Maybe Drew hasn't been as intense on defense and as I don't know as much of a connector on offense. Another reason is Kristaps is finally trying to catch his stride, and I think they didn't really have him that much last year, at least when it mattered. So I think it's just kind of everybody trying to catch their stride and remember how to work as a group again. The only thing that worries me is that even in the ways the Celtics wouldn't lose, so even in wins last year, they won a championship, and in the losses this year, the things that really seem to bother them are a strong interior force. Kristaps, it seems like he just really can't handle the guys who are going to really stay down on that block and kind of box him out and take it to him on the offensive end. That would be my only worry.
Yeah.
Obviously, they have a ton of time to figure it out, and they're probably I think they're the betting favorites right now to win it to repeat. But that's just kind of my theory about it. You know, Derek White isn't going to always average close to 20 points and shoot 41% from three.
Right.
Chris
Yeah.
Stapps, it's going to take him some time before he gets that interior defensive force that we're used to seeing from him. So
Now, in the Eastern Conference, this is my ballot here. Now, Bakari, of course, we talked about these teams. I have some quick rapid fire questions, and these can literally just be one word answers from you. For one, Jimmy Butler. We know all that drama that's going around. Where do you think he ends up? Do you think he ends the year with Miami and then gets traded? Or do you think he gets traded here in let's say 2 hours?
I think he gets traded, probably to Phoenix.
Probably
Pat
Phoenix.
Riley is not going to trade him to another Eastern Conference team unless it's a bottom feeder like the Nets or the Wizards, because Jimmy stated he feels like any team is a contender as long as he's on the team. That's how bad he wants to leave.
Sounds like
Pat
he's going
Riley's
to
not going to
Detroit.
do him any favors and send him to a like the Pistons or anything like that. So I think if it's going to be Phoenix or nowhere,
Yeah.
for Jimmy.
Now, I do want to throw this out there. I know Cam Johnson is on the horizon. We're Cavaliers fans, and we have some Cavs here in the All Star ballot. For one, we are the front runners technically right now, but as of last night, I saw that the Thunder entered the mix. And honestly, I don't think we have much of a chance to get Cam Johnson anymore because the Thunder could just give him one or two of their 27 first round picks. And let's say, I don't know, Isaiah Joe, and they can have Cam Johnson into their lineup. Your thoughts on maybe bringing in not necessarily Cam Johnson, but any wing here at the offseason or at the midseason mark for the Cavaliers? If you're the GM, would you bring someone in and risk messing up this team chemistry on court and off the court? Or would you just stick with what you got because the mojo is really good right now?
I think this Cavs team has probably understood, or you probably knew it faster than the average person, that they could probably win a chip sooner rather than later. And I think that with them, they're all bought in. If moves have to happen, I think Donovan Mitchell understands that these moves have to happen to really have a better chance at winning in the playoffs. Same thing with Darius Garland. I think if you can get Cam Johnson, or you've mentioned Jeremy Grant, or any of those type of caliber of wings, you got to do it, especially if all you're giving up is George Niang, who isn't the most consistent player, or Sam Merrill, who's having a bad year so far,
Imani
or
Bates, don't forget
Jalen
him.
Tyson, who doesn't even play. I give those players up for somebody you know is going to be a contributing factor in the playoffs when it matters, and you know that you can always re-sign those players. Cam Johnson is on a 2-year contract. Chances are you trade for him and re-sign or sign him to an extension. The only other thing I do is look in the buyout market. Last year, you got Marcus Morris
Yeah.
for nothing,
He played
and
really
JB
good
Bickerstaff
basketball
was
for
our
us.
coach. Yeah, JB Bickerstaff was our coach, so we didn't use him until Game 5 versus Boston, where where he couldn't miss. But if you can get somebody on like that caliber, that's better than George Niang. So,
Yeah.
you know,
And then last thing here, of course, I will continue to flip between these ballots for you guys at home. First off, let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, I'll get back to you as quick as I possibly can. Bakari, it is currently MLK Day. It is January 20th. Who do you think? What is your finals matchup at this point in time, and who would you have coming over the top? Because I don't know if we're going to see you here before the playoffs come around. Hopefully, right? Hopefully, I see in a couple weeks to maybe do these All-Star drafts. But if not, as of right now, put your stake in the ground. Who do you think is coming out of the East, West, and who do you have winning it all?
Let's see. I'll give you the four teams that are probably going to be in the conference finals.
Okay,
In the East, I'd say I'm not being a biased Cavs fan, just the way that I've seen this team play up close.
they're
They're a
different.
really good basketball team, movement defensively. I'd say the Cleveland and Boston. It looks like that's going to be the conference finals. And I know the Knicks and the Bucks are in there, but it's Cleveland and Boston to me as of right now. No moves before the trade deadline. In the West, I'm going to say obviously OKC. OKC didn't even make it
Yes.
that far last year. But I think the other team that could really give them some problems is Dallas. Dallas hasn't even had Luca, and Dallas looks like, if there wasn't OKC, Dallas probably would be the best team in my eyes in the West, and they haven't been fully healthy. That's just the type of different problems they can give you. All of these other teams are too inconsistent for, in my opinion, in the West. Like, what are you going to get from Houston out of in the playoffs in their first big,
Yeah, right.
playoff series with their young core?
What do you mean? Fred VanVleet can't tap back into what he was in the 2019 finals?
I don't even think he could tap back to what he was in the 2023 regular season. Are the Clippers going to make it that far? Is
No.
Minnesota even going to make the playoffs? What are the Lakers going to do?
What do you mean? Wemby's not going to carry his team to the promised land?
Well, if it's 2K, he's going to win six out of the next seven chips, but he's going to win all seven depoys and everything. How far can Nikola Jokic really carry you? So those are just some. How far are the Grizzlies going to get in Ja's first real season back after being in contenders pretty much for the most part 2 years ago? So that's probably what I'd say. And in the finals, I unfortunately probably have to go Boston and fully healthy OKC versus Dallas. I can't give an answer on that because I really don't know.
I think we
Like I
saw
said, we
last
saw
year.
what happened with OKC last year, but
I mean,
this
Luca was on
just
one knee.
well, just like the Cavs though, OKC kind of kept the same core and got better. Like
Yes.
they know ins and outs of each other. They're not going to let the same thing happen twice. So
Yeah,
that's why I
Clay
say
might
I
go
don't
0
know.
of 10 in an elimination game again.
I think you know what? I think Klay Thompson is going to be the difference maker for Dallas.
Yes, he's the X
I
factor for that team.
Yeah, I think Clay will be the X factor. So I give Dallas the edge and see a rematch from last year. Unfortunately, it'd
Do you
be a
know who I
rematch.
think?
But
Do you know who I think is the biggest? I think the nightmare scenario for the Oklahoma City Thunder because they're going to get the one seed, right? I think the nightmare scenario that's reasonable. I don't think the Clippers or the Grizzlies or the Lakers. I think those teams. I don't think they're going to be the 8 seed, right? I think they'd be the 7 seed and up. I think the nightmare scenario for the Thunder would be the Phoenix Suns, and it sounds
yeah,
crazy, but if they're healthy, just the fact that Devin Booker can win you a game or Kevin Durant can just win you a game by himself against his old team throwing that out there. I know there's a lot of inconsistencies with that team, but I think that would be a nightmare first round matchup. And again, even if you win it, I think the Suns take you 6, 7 games. But again, we also saw last year where I thought the same thing, and the Timberwolves just blew them out the water. But
I
again,
give I give this is probably unlikely to happen just with the record and everything. But if this was to happen, Denver would not
I
be a good matchup for
nobody
him at
can
all.
guard Jokic.
And that would be the deciding factor. Nobody can guard Jokic, and as long as you get one of the three of either Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., or Aaron Gordon to come along with you, you have a shot to beat them just because you have Nikola Jokic.
Yeah.
So
I could
that would
definitely, I
not be
could
a good
just see
matchup for
Jokic
him.
just getting back, just he has a point to prove and just telling everybody, hey, this is still my NBA, and he's going to go to the
Right.
finals and compete with Boston for yet another ring.
And then ride my
Um,
horses after I win another ring or something like that.
right. But that is it. Episode 245, Bakari. It's been a while, but thank you for coming back to the show. We're always going to welcome you with open arms. Of course, this channel wouldn't be close to 18,000 without you. Of course, you joined on when we had about 50. But episode 245 on Thursday, Amir's going to join the show, and we have our conference championship predictions. Jaden Daniels, ladies and gentlemen, continues to be that Cinderella run, and he continues to shock the world. Can he get to the promised land? We're going to talk about that on Thursday. Any last thoughts, Bakari, before we get out of here? And we actually have a jam-packed NBA day today.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've been on here, so a lot of things that we've been talking about off camera, I haven't even been able to discuss on
Right.
a pod or anything like that. But it's always fun being back. Got to knock the rust off a little bit. I plan on being back as often as I can be. So it's like I said, it's always fun.
Yeah. Well, we'll see you guys Thursday. Go enjoy the basketball and get your votes in today. And of course, don't vote for Peyton Pritchard.